Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Sword and Shield real quick, shall we? This is something I actually kind of wanted to talk about because, I like Pokemon. I've liked Pokemon a lot. I played it ever since Fire Red, Leaf Green, and a little bit before. I dabbled. Did I? I can't remember if I played Yellow. I really can't. But I know for a fact I played the ever-loving blank out of Fire Red and Leaf Green. It was the same game, and I bought it twice. So there has been a lot of stuff over Sword and Shield, because there always is a bunch of stuff over everything. Nowadays, you can't have something go by without some problem or whatever. I sort of wish developers would just kind of drop stuff and just, like, put it out there all of a sudden without any really hype or circumstances. Be like, 2 days before the game comes out, game's done, enjoy, have fun, enjoy enjoy the game, and you get the full thing. I am peaking like a mofo. Hold on, let me move this back an inch. This is going to be very unfortunate. That might be better. I'm also trying to tone down my voice a little bit because I know this doesn't need to be as hype as a normal video, and you won't have gameplay audio. You might get some lovely BGM of Pokemon, probably. But I'm kidding, I already have it all saved. Alright, so first off the bat, we have the National Dex. National Dex is a bit of an issue. All of this, and apologies, Pokemon DB, I know you don't support me because you don't even know I exist, but your site is an amazing use and is an amazing resource. By the way, check out Pokemon DB. I ain't gonna link it this time, but it's pretty good. All this is going away in Sun and Moon. All these beautiful different shades of, oh god, the colors. My eyes blinked and all I saw was the colors. All these different beautiful shades are going away. I wonder if even these guys will ever come back. It's unlikely that any of these Ultra Beasts will show up again. But that's sort of irrelevant. All these Pokemon are going away. Not all of them. They're not going away for good. They're going away for a brief period of time. They aren't particularly going away depending on the games. They're probably going to add like 30 here, 40 here, depending on the game release that they're going to do from now on. This irked a lot of people, and understandably so, because you have a huge variety that you've always, for the most part, been able to move forward, and even from side games, been able to move forward, oddly enough. They've made a big deal about that. But they're cutting it off here, which is understandable. That's a big thing to do. Problem is, though, they came at it the wrong way. The way that they went at this is they said that they were going... Masuda himself said they were going to have much higher fidelity with higher quality animations. And he was talking about in reference to the models. Shouldn't have done that. They really shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have said anything that they were doing, because all you did is you dug your pit and you filled it with cobras. You filled it with cobras and you filled it with glass shards. And now people are looking at said pit and they're waiting for something to jump into it. And what you're showing off in your pre-release stuff isn't really showing any fantastic stuff. Pretty much the same animations as what players have seen, and they've continued to see from all the trailers that they've put out. Nothing too special, nothing too spectacular. And I'm not one of those people who say, maybe they just chose the wrong parts, but my big problem with that is they shouldn't have said anything. Because now when Sword and Shield releases, people are going to have a laser focus on that. They're going to be looking at animations, and they're going to be looking at the model quality, because you had to go out of your way and say, this is the reason we are cutting these. Or it got simplified, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was saying that in a vague, or he was misunderstanding, or something was lost in translation. I don't know. But from what the general consensus is that he said that, the general knowledge, I should say, not consensus. General knowledge is, he said that particularly because everyone was getting upset about the National Dex, or what have you. Or was it before or after? I don't know. Nor do I care. Fact is, he said it. And you create the problem. Now, this isn't that much of an issue when you look at these Pokemon. So, take for instance Kakuna. I don't expect you to make specific animations for Kakuna. Take Metapod. I expect Kakuna and Metapod to rock at best. I don't expect much from these guys, you know? Some of the smaller evolutions, Diglett and Dugtrio, will have animation overlap. Machamp, Machoke, and Machamp, these are obviously going to have animation overlap. And I'm not saying, like, you just get to copy the animations from one Grimer and Muck, for instance. I'm not saying you're going to be able to copy the animations whole hog from one to another. That's stupid. No, I know how animations work. However, one very important thing that you need to understand is they're not starting from scratch for every animation. Which is a good thing. It's why they recently had camping. Hold on, I have a video of it somewhere. Camp like never before. Here we go. So, volume. So, you have camps, which is cool. It's an evolution of Pokemon to me, and I'm fine with that. I always remember them showing in, oh wow, that's even like tree bases. So, I remember them having this in the show a lot, where you have a bunch of people sit down, and hell, even the Pokemon Masters video? What was it? It was a prologue. The pre-release to Pokemon Masters, their big trailer for which I thought was an animated film. Oh, look at all the evolutions. I love this guy. So, you have this, and I like this. I think this is perfectly fine. To have this is a good thing, honestly. This is fine, and reusing the Amonami animations, like right here. Yeah, do that, because they aren't that old. The problem is people are getting upset with the ones that are the Rapidash, where Rapidash will lift itself up and, like, Flare Blitz or Volt Tackle or Blitz, one of the two. Since I used to run a Rapidash sleeper, what it would do is it lift itself up. Consider this is just convenient. Ignore this. Pretend this is Rapidash, pretend this is whatever. The Rapidash would lift itself up, start going this way, and right about here or here-ish, it would get a red or yellow orb of electricity or fire surrounding it. And then it would bash into the other opponent, and I don't think the opponent would even move. It would do its hurt animation, and then the Rapidash would back. It looked terrible. It's always looked terrible, and it's always something people have known going into Pokemon that, yeah, the animations kind of suck. Honestly, I've gotten into Warhammer recently, which is terrible. It's a bad idea. And just from painting and creating the models, you use less imagination in Warhammer, and Warhammer is a tabletop game than you do when you play Pokemon. Because Pokemon has really bad animations, and sometimes bad animations, you'd prefer sprites, straight up. And having the animations play, you have to imagine so much. Like, he starts running, and then he slams in and turns and returns to you. It's something that Pokemon's always struggled with, and has always been a negative. So, if they even do, and my whole point on this, and I'm rambling a bit, but a big problem with the animations is people on both sides are angry at each other. How dare you yell at the thing I like? That's not the whole reason. They're angry that people are getting upset over reused animations. Because every game does it. Yes, everybody knows this. The people who are getting upset about that are stupid. Ignore them. They do not deserve to be talked to. Just shush them and move them aside. It's fine. Game's probably going to be fine regardless. It's a fucking Pokemon game. If it turns out to be bad, I'll laugh my ass off, though, because that's hilarious. Pokemon, they don't have the greatest animations, and everyone knows that. So, to have reused animations, and another thing that Pokemon has been really cheap at is they reuse the same fucking game consistently. They make the same game with slight variances. Oh my god, the shuckle. Ugh. That bothers me so much. The fact that they remake the same game multiple times. They've been really heavy on the remakes recently, which has actually caused, like, a drought in player retention, which is awkward. For instance, I didn't even beat Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. I couldn't handle going back through that game so recently after beating it. It was just, it was awful. And that was primarily just because player exhaustion. You're releasing the game pretty much yearly, sometimes multiple titles a year. It's ridiculous. And to go back more on track, you have the other side of the whole, oh, the animations are bad. The animations, are better. And this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, you kind of have to see both sides in this one, because some people are really upset because the animations have been reused forever, and they've been bad forever, and they release multiple games that are incredibly similar forever. They almost as much as Monster Hunter does, actually, of they just reuse, and that's very smart game development. However, with a series that's gone on this long, you need to understand that it's going to cause burnout with your fan base. Now, one of the things that I do want to show for this argument is... I don't think we'll need this anymore. This is a good example that I immediately thought of because I like the horse-type body Pokemon. Pokemon have body types, which means they have very similar animation setups and body setups. Makes sense, you know, dog's a dog, cat's a cat, those kind of things. Now, not all of these are going to share identical animations, and there will be tweaking, but you won't be doing all of them from scratch, is the good thing, which saves a lot of time and a lot of effort. And you can rework and tweak them a little bit, and they're going to be moving fast, so certain things with the animations can be changed to make it look really nice. For instance, Blitzel, Zebra Strike, Ponyta, Rapidash, Mudbray, and Mudsdale. Also Giraffe, I realized. Also came to mind. These guys are all going to have somewhat similar animation setups. They're not going to be identical, and they're not going to be entirely usable, but what was that? That was Blitzel, Zebra Strike, Mudsdale, Mudbray, Rapidash, Ponyta, and Giraffe. That is 7 Pokemon that have very similar animations that you can tweak at most, that you would need to tweak and tune to make it look nice with that skeleton, that character skeleton. That's nice. That's a good thing. That's great. Do that. Because I'm not expecting, when they talk about remaking everything and making everything look better, I know they're going to have to do some tweaks to the models. It's going to have to happen. Even if people are saying it's minimal, yeah, it's going to be minimal. They don't like to put out that much effort into things. And that's not a downside. It's a good and intelligent game development. To say that developers don't want to put effort into remaking the entire cast straight from ground, that's a good thing. You don't need to. That saves so much money just reusing your old assets in some way, modifying that. Hell, I love RPG Maker games, and I'll play RPG Maker games even if they're base. I'm starting work on one of my own as is, you know? And I have zero artistic capability. I'm inept when it comes to art. I can paint models, but what am I going to do? Have fucking models on screen? That'd be silly. That'd be silly and would not be... I can't write something as dumb as that. Not saying, like, I can't write something as dumb as that and make it good, is what I'm saying. Not to be insulting. But, we have... It's just... It's such a torn, because a part of me says, yeah, but a part of me also says, no, it's dumb. They shouldn't need to have that. What they should definitely have, though, is about 1/5, I think, 1/5 or 1/4 of the animations that are in that game, because it's going to have a limited move list. Hopefully they're picking a smart cast of Pokemon with a very similar move list. For instance, for those of you who don't know, all Pokemon can only learn a certain number of skills. These are their attacks, their abilities, and whatnots. These all here, if you limit these and you pick from a limited cast, for instance, Stomp, you pick only Pokemon, a lot of Pokemon that start with Stomp. So let's say you have 10 Pokemon with Stomp. Nidoking, Nidorina, or what have you, gets it. And let's say you have all these Pokemon, which I'm assuming would have it, that I just listed the Horse-type Pokemon. That's a lot of overlap that you don't really need to do a whole ton of work on. If you even get a 1/5 or a 1/4 of the animations redone and make them look nice and pretty, and don't make it look like the thing bounces up for in a half a second and like, dink, dink. The fucking Score Bunny one, for instance, was ridiculous. Then I'm all for you. I'm 100% on board for you doing this. However, you dug the pit, you filled it with vipers, you filled it with glass shards. Something's got to get thrown into it. Like, you don't just build that pit and then expect nothing to get thrown into it. Something's going to get thrown in. And it's... If I had to bet, it's going to get Pokemon. Pokemon is going to get thrown into it. I don't think they're going to throw... Oh, not Pokemon. Game Freak or the developers of Pokemon are going to get thrown in. Not Pokemon as a franchise. But I feel like they're going to end up falling into it. I think that calling out, we're doing this for this reason, for animation detail and model quality, was a very foolish thing. I will never get over that, because it just seems so... Why would you call it that shot? Why would you say to your first time to pool, 8-ball corner pocket coming right up? You know, like, everyone's just going to laugh at you when it turns out bad. That's something that I don't think they thought about, or he didn't think it all the way through. I don't know. It's really tough to say. A couple more examples I want to do. Raikou, Entei, and Suicune will all have similar ones. There's tons of examples. Lugia, I picked legendaries here, sorry. Ho-Ho, and Eevee. Eevee and the Evolutions share a crazy amount of moves that are really good. Wish, in particular, where is it? Why is Wish not on here? Why is... Wish is not on here. Oh my god. Oh, let's go Pikachu and Eevee. Yeah, see, they're going to limit the move list already. So they already have a limited... Also, why... This is something I don't understand. Why did they say that when they already did Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee? They should have started it there, because they already had the base 150 done. Excuse me, but... This is genuinely confusing. I never understood that. I don't know why they did that. But... Wish is incredibly good, and you use it on basically every Eevee. It's potential. You want to use it sometimes. It's really good to just cheap out, and this is me getting competitive. Oh, speaking of competitive, fun things. Let's see where my notes go. Gigamax. Ouch. So, another big problem is they said, hey, we're going to make Pokemon big. And everyone went like the old large Pokemon in... Hold on. Let me look here real quick. Let's see if we can do a Sexy Jutsu Overload. Alright, that's on my front page on this. I don't know why that's on there, but I only looked at Pokemon stuff on this because I just recently cleared everything. So apparently Pokemon leads you to Sexy Jutsu Overload. Naruto needs a cough drop, so we all know that. So let's look up... Large Pokemon? Wow, that was awful. Awful. Show large Pokemon. Oh, bummer. Let me cut. Okay, so here we finally go. This took forever. So, I think I was wrong about the Tentacruel. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So you have Giant Dragonite. And it just shows up very briefly, and it's like, oh, so there's going to be giant Pokemon that you're going to have, and they're going to show up, and you could catch... Did they fire a bazooka at the Dragonite? And it took damage and recoiled from the attack? Excuse me. Excuse me, this show was different from what I thought it was. This is all of a sudden became Godzilla. So... You're going to have giant Pokemon like this, right? And they're going to be massive and monstrous. No, you're going to have giant Raichus that look silly and goofy in particular arenas that... And my big question is, okay, so you have Raichu and Machoke. I think they showed that new sweet Pokemon in Gigamax. What is it? I don't know. It's Gigamaxing, Gigantamaxing Pokemon. You have a big variety of these Pokemon. Is this just the entire roster as giant Pokemon? And then here's my second question. Are there shiny variants of these Pokemon? And then here's my third question. Is this just the same system overlaid on top of the same game? Because what I'm thinking this is this is going to be the same exact gameplay scenario of get Pokemon, fight other Pokemon, and grind the Pokemon to either X level or grind their stats or what have you. Some form of grinding is most likely going to be involved. Do these Pokemon all come like base level 50 stat allocated and you can just go to a trainer or something and they'll teach them the moves? Do they have to learn the moves? Do they have IVs? Is it the same identical system just overlaid on top of it? Because if it's the same system overlaid on top of the same game, you have the same game but twice, that's awful. That is genuinely bad, and shame on you. That is not fun. That is not entertaining. That is not engaging. That is going to be boring, and that's going to piss people like me off. So, just because it's so nothing. It's just, this feels like nothing, and this has been a big red flag for me ever since Pokemon Sword and Shield. The first time I saw this, I was like, oh, I'm not going to get this game until it goes on sale, because this is just, I don't care. This isn't interesting. There aren't like a couple rare specific Pokemon. You're probably tossing Megas. I think they said that? I don't know. Don't take my word on that, but I think I remember hearing it. Tossing Megas, and they have this, which just, I don't feel. EXP share is always on. That's fine. I don't have a big issue with that. I'm going to be completely real. I don't have a big issue with that. It's nice. That's all I could say. As somebody who breeds Pokemon, yeah, it's nice. My only problem, though, is if IVs, EVs, oh, God. Hold on, let me do some refreshing. Okay. I reminded myself of the difference between IVs and EVs. If you're curious, IVs are the base stats you go through. I believe 0 to 31. If my memory is correct, it most likely is not. That's what you want to breed. You want to breed a max IV Pokemon. And that's a big thing you want to do in Pokemon. And that's going to be a good Pokemon. And IVs determine everything. And then you have stuff like this, which has stat growth, which sites like Pokemon DB are fucking amazing at. You have stat growth. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. EVs isn't that actually that beautiful. However, there's also EV. An EV you usually get when you defeat it. So I believe if you defeat I don't remember what this denotes, but I believe if you defeat an EV in the field, you will get one special defense, which means you'll have one EV applied to your special defense stat, which will help in the stat growth, and it'll just automatically allocate your stats, and you can reset them and whatnot. So, an EXP share is a bit of a mess with that. That's why you don't really want to do it that often. But if they turn that off and you don't have EV yield, so you don't mess with all of your Pokemon's EVs, or they just remove EV. Honestly, I'd kind of be fine if they just removed EV all entirely in this new series moving forward, but some people wouldn't like it, and I'd understand that. I totally get it, but it's always just this side thing that you have to do, and they even made a mode where you can just do it easy, so the moment you get your Pokemon, you just max out its EVs that you want, and then you just move on. It was like this training arena where you just did the stupid mini games. I forget what it was. It was not important. It was like so minimal, and only really breeders did it, or people who wanted to grind items. The next thing I want to talk about is that they said that the Pokemon will always stay viable in competitive battles. Very, 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 very confusing to me. So you're telling me I can take my Eevee, look at the stats on the Eevee, and I can set it up. Let's go to the top so you could get a good back and forth on this. And my Eevee can be competitive against a Flareon? You're going to need to explain this. And he kind of wanted to dance around it, because I had a feeling he didn't quite know himself at the time. Got a feeling they have a good plan, but they're really fine-tuning it in these last couple months before the game comes out. How is this going to be competitive against this? Can you tell me? Can you honestly give me an answer? How are these two things going to be competitive? Let's try another one. Let's do the goofy one. Let's do the real goofy one. How is this going to be competitive against this? Now this is absurd. Mewtwo's an absurd example, but okay, let's make it more absurd. How is this going to be competitive against this? Tell me, how is 55 HP going to beat 106? How is 150 attack going to be beaten by a 55? How is a 70 defense going to be beaten by a 50? I'm genuinely, unbelievably curious how all Pokemon are going to remain viable. Again, maybe keep quiet until right before the game releases and come out with like full descriptions, because now I was blown away by that. That was so like, what, why, how, what? And one of the things he went on about was he said something about changing personality, which if you don't know, oh man, do you have personalities? Oh, it'll be beautiful for me here. Okay, let's type in personality. Pokemon individual values and personalities. All right, personality. Let's just read Pokemon database because they do grandiose work. Personality values were introduced in Generation 3 Ruby Sapphire. Like IVs, they are a random number assigned to the Pokemon. Upon encountering or receiving it, they determine most of Pokemon's attributes. Gender. Okay, that'd be really weird if you could change the gender. Like, just straight up. Shininess, no, you're not changing that. I put money, you're not changing that. Ability, this is something that they might change. I think there's already a way to change. Unknown's letter, yeah, okay, so that's just unknowns. Wormpools, yeah. And spots. Those are some Pokemon specific ones. What I believe it meant to say was it's nature. In which if you haven't seen this before, you're going to be like, oh, that's why my Pokemon sucked at that. Yeah, this determines... So if you're adamant, you have increased attacks, but decreased special attack, which is a very good one. Because, you know, if you're using attack, you usually don't use special attack, because you're an attack sweeper, you're not a special attack sweeper. Bashful, special attack. Yeah, there's some you don't use. Bold, defense, and attack. If you're a defensive type Pokemon, you don't need that attack. And you still have, that doesn't mean you lower special attack. It's very good. Brave, attack and speed. Good for slow Pokemon, because they're not going to win any battles anyways. Off of speed. You get the drift. These all are give and takes. I believe they're talking about this, because this is what one of the first things when you breed a Pokemon go to change. So I'm assuming he was talking about that, because he's not talking about gender, right? Like, that would be silly. Pokemon abilities, which are like when a Pokemon can have, I think actually Flareon would be a better example of this. Flareon. So he's Flash Fire or Guts. Does the base Eevee have a better one? Yes, it does. Okay, so when you catch an Eevee, there is, I believe, like a 50-50 shot that you can get a Runaway or an Adaptability. These abilities do entirely different things, and they do different stuff. This, I think there was always a way to change. Do not quote me on that, but I remember changing it in the past. I don't know how, but I remember changing it. It was an item you gave to it or something. It was very easy to change. It's about as easy as personality to change. I believe that's what he means. And if you could change the personalities, that helps. But personality doesn't mean that much when the nature of the Pokemon gets changed. The abilities and personalities, being able to change those very easily would be nice. But again, ability makes sense, but then you're changing the personality of the Pokemon. You're changing the nature of the Pokemon. So you're changing a shy Pokemon to be bashful. Or you're changing a adamant Pokemon to be cowardly. What? How? What? Okay, you're gonna have to jump through a hoop to explain that in game now, because that just seems eh. Also, they're nerfing the effectiveness of breeding with the last change as well. This is something he talked about with that last change. Breeding is going to be cut now. Not entirely, and it's not, but its effectiveness is going to be cut, because if it's actually going to be streamlined in a couple ways, because you could just change the personality and nature, bam. I mean, your nature's values, like the abilities and stuff. Natures and abilities, great, fucking awesome. Like, you know, it's done. I could just ignore that part of my breeding. I could get relatively straight to abilities and IVs. At that point, I could just jump straight to IVs and abilities. But he said something about cutting the effectiveness. They didn't want to limit the work. And that was one of the things of making all Pokemon competitive. Because when my Pokemon, for instance, me and Poison, I have a team of full shiny max IV Pokemon. I went up against Poison, like EV trained and everything. Stomped the ever-loving Shiza out of him. And he's like, I don't know why I'm losing so hard. And I said very simply, yeah, my Pokemon are bred to win. Yours were trained to win. And that was the big difference, because when you max out the EV and IVs, you get really high performance out of your Pokemon. You get really, really, really... Hey, it is 31. You get really, really, really high-performing IVs. And the Pokemon just becomes better, just outright. And they always kind of nerf that with, like, level 50 balanced matches, and it doesn't really matter as much. They've always had a game mode as much, but if they're just generalizing it... Kind of curious how they're going to make every Pokemon viable and yet still retain breeding having any real reason apart from just Masudamething infinite shinies. Because if I don't have to care about IVs anymore, shiny breeding gets a whole lot quicker. If I don't need to care about personality anymore, shiny breeding gets a whole lot quicker. Hell, if I don't have to care about personality, gender anymore, that would actually be nice. Shiny breeding gets a lot quicker. There are some Pokemon that you want to be female, and there's some Pokemon that you do want to be male. And the 50-50 split you get can sometimes be infuriating when you're dealing with Masuna method breeding, which I believe is a 1 in 356 chance. So that means you have to hatch roughly about 356 eggs before you get a shiny. And when you pop one that's the wrong gender, it gets annoying. Also, when you pop one before the IVs are done, or personalities, it gets real annoying. And then you also have the real fun time, where you don't pop one until you're on 15,000, and then you give up breeding, because you're tired of trying to breed 15,000 ciphers to get a 1 in 356 chance of a shiny. And that's my story on how I stopped breeding. So you have ups and downs. It's real torn. I'm going to wait. At the end of the day, my decision on Sword and Shield is I'm going to end up waiting for Jaywitz to do a video like he normally does. If he does. Or if not, I'll find it someplace else. Of a complete shiny collection guide. Because I looked at Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and I thought it looked really fun to get those shinies. However, I did not want to play Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. If I did, I would play Eevee, yada yada yada. I just don't... I didn't feel it. I wasn't up to it. I was still hurting from Ultra Sun and Moon, not wanting to play that awfully slow game again. And... yeah, that's the end story for me. I'm probably going to pick it up if it has really, really cool means of catching shinies, but I'm not going to pick it up for the gameplay. I don't even really want to pick it up for the animations even. I'm going to be kind of upset. I know I'm going to be upset by the animation quality. But if they do manage to do a fourth of the total moves in the game and make them look good and make them look nice and snappy and pretty, I am going to be one of the first people clapping for them. However, I won't be able to know that myself because I won't be playing the game. But hey, other people will, and that's all that matters. So, this long rambling video is just me randomly expositing random thoughts about Pokemon Sword and Shield and what I've been thinking about it and kind of reflecting a bit before. I've been reflecting a bit beforehand because it's like, do I want to keep committing? Because Pokemon's a commitment, right? When you pick up Pokemon, you want to play it seriously, not casually, and just beat the... Most people want to beat the main storyline, and sometimes they'll do the side quests, you know? The side story after the main one's done is a big thing. It was in Ultra Sun and Moon. It was the whole collect the Ultra Beasts and stuff and make them not hurt anybody and stop them from causing a ruckus. And a couple legendaries are usually scattered about that you can go get. The legendary birds were a big one usually. But you could also do that before if you finish the main story, if I recall. Most people don't... I don't know if anyone really cares about all that. And that's the thing. It's like, well, if you don't care about the animations, why are you looking up talk on the animations? If you do care about the animations, it makes sense that you're looking up talk about the animations because obviously you care. It's just one of those social media things where I feel like people are just walking into... They know the trap is a mimic. And then they go to open the chest, and they're like, ah, it was a mimic. And you're like, yeah, I told you that. And then they start yelling at you that it's a mimic, and it's like, yeah, I know. And then you also have another issue where it's an echo chamber, and it's a weird divide that's happening right now in a really weird scenario on, wow, it's Pokemon. Where I didn't think there would be a divide, because usually Pokemon is, did you play the game or did you not? It's usually as simple as that. Do you like Pokemon or did you not? Because there's tons of people who don't like Pokemon, and that's fine. It's just an RPG number grinding game. You know, it's like straight up, all Pokemon is you number grind. It's a grind game. Yes, there are times where it matters on your relationship to your Pokemon, but 90% of the time, you're just grinding. You know, vast majority of the time, Pokemon, you're just grinding, and sometimes you're doing some interesting stuff. So, I'm really not happy with the way everything's turning out, and I don't think Sun and Moon will be this grandiose change, and everything is going to get better, and they're going to redo all the animations. That's absurd. They're not going to do that, especially not this team that works on Pokemon. The teams that work on Pokemon. It's not the design process of Pokemon. It's to make it work. You know, they need to ship it, and they need to make the game work, and they need to make a nice, rewarding experience, and then make 2 slightly different paths in your nice, rewarding experience, and progress. And that's it. And they do that most of the time. And I keep going back to the same thing. You shouldn't have dug that pit with vipers and glass. You shouldn't have done that. Because you created such a narrow point that you need to nail, and you have not shown that you're capable of nailing. Granted, if they do, I'll be impressed. Hell, I said I'd be impressed if they even do a 4th. I'm expecting a 5th or a 6th of the animations to look nice. You know, if they do a 4th of the animations, we're golden. In like 3 or 4 games, this will look amazing. It'll be so much fun to play Pokemon again. But they're probably not going to. They're just not. I just don't see them doing that. I don't see them going for it. I would love it if they did, but I can't see it. And now I'm rambling, so I'm going to cut myself off here. Hope you all have a wonderful day. I can't think of anything else to say because I don't have an outro. I should really make a specific one. Anyways, have a nice day. As we stare at Eevee for like 6 years, I just realized I had that up for like 20 minutes of this. Eevee stopped here anyways.